is a great day to be alive, and I am so thankful for God, Jesus Christ, who lives in us. In today's video titled, Germany Crisis and the Ukraine War, is the U.S. now marching towards war? Before we get started, I'm not a financial advisor. Nothing that I'm sharing is financial advice. I am simply sharing dreams, visions, and interpretations that I feel God has given me as it relates to crypto. Now, let's get into the video. So what I want to do is begin with a correction. I pulled two slides from my previous video titled Signs of Coming War and Market Crash. And what I did was I explained the 40 and 60 days incorrectly. The dates, the outcome, November 14th and November 27th, those dates are correct. I did them so many times I memorized the dates. However, I explained the 40 days and the 60 days incorrectly. What I should have said was from August 6th, moving forward, the yellow 40 days will give us September 15th. And from September 15th, moving forward, 60 days will give us November 14th. Another way to look at this is combine the yellow and red combined will give us 100 days. You can also do 100 days from August the 6th, and it will also give you November the 14th. And the same goes for the August 19th date. 40 days moving forward from August 19th will give us September 28th, and 60 days from September 28th will give us November 27th. Again, another way to do it is 100 days from August 19th will give us November 27th. So the dates are correct. I explained, for whatever reason, pregnancy brain, I explained the 40 days and 60 days incorrectly. So I apologize for that, but the dates are still the same. As we move forward to the next slide, we see here again those dates, November 14th and November 27th. We've been praying about that. The ultimate thing is praying, asking God about this fourth quarter market crash date. But I also explained in the process of doing so how God has been giving us many things as it relates to war dates, crypto dates, and then the market crash date, at least one of them. And so what came to me is to ask God the question of which category, when it comes down to these particular dates that are being derived from these dreams as we piece these things together, what category do these things fall in? And so as of November 14th, which is already coming on, we can now, it's safe to say that that date has been given to XRP. XRP, a lot of news came out about XRP. A lot of news came out as it relates to crypto gains and taxes, and how that Trump will be or wants to eliminate capital gain taxes. And so that is really good. At the same time, we saw a lot of movement in the market as it relates to XRP. XRP is now above $1. I think the highest was $1.26. So let's continue to keep praying about what we're seeing as far as XRP rising and what God is going to do next for XRP. Also, if you have not seen the video titled God's Manifestation, XRP Dream Recap and Updates, I shared this particular slide in that video, but I also shared some things that God has been sharing with me as it relates to XRP and what he's going to do with XRP. So now headed back to signs of coming war and market crash. In that video, I talked about how I felt God leading me to create a yellow and red dream timeline. And when I did that, there was a pattern that was seen as I began to chart and count those 100 days. And out of 5 yellow and red dreams that I had, only 3 made it onto this yellow and red dream timeline chart. And so my question in that video was, why only 3? Why not all 5? What is the deal with these other 2 dreams? And those dreams were the banana dream and also me inquiring of the date of October 17th. And so what God began to do is take me back to these particular dreams to go through what he had already revealed to me. And then he revealed something that was new. As I begin to do more research, I come to find out that there was such thing as a banana war. And from this banana war, different things were analyzed as far as all of these short wars that took place. And from all of that experience, a manual was created, and the manual was titled Small Wars Manual. The word to pay attention to here is small war. From there, I shared my Tupac dream that I had, and in that dream, the flag that I saw painted on this plexiglass box was a backwards flag, and inside of that box was a small white casket, and how I felt that God was showing me that this has something to do with the U.S. and the U.S. marching towards war, because a backwards flag represents marching towards war. What I also gathered was that this would be a mini war, or a war that is small, or one that will not last a very long time. And so from both of these dreams that were not included on this yellow and red dream timeline, God began to again pull me in the direction of seeing this again, being reminded of this small war. And the question that I had during that time is, if this is the case, then what would put us in that position to be involved, the U.S. getting involved in a small war? And these were the three scenarios that I could think of as far as what I've been seeing throughout this entire timeline, market crash timeline that God has been helping me to derive. Again, China and Taiwan, is that going to be the reason? Is it going to be Ukraine and something that Biden is going to decide on, for example, the long range missiles? Or will it be something to do with Iran as it relates to the situation that's going on with Trump? And so I left off in that video understanding that God is showing me again, pointing me my ideas in as far as this market crash in the direction of the U.S. being involved in a small war. So what I want to do now is come back to this particular table to focus on the days of November 6th and November 7th. And the reason why is because of this November dream that I had. The November dream about the collapse of the US dollar, it had to do with national and international banking. National banking was going away. And the question that I had during that time was, well, what would cause the US dollar to collapse? The first thing I thought about as it relates to international banking, I thought about XRP. Another thought came to mind was the BRICS nation and how they want to de-dollarize the US dollar. I also thought about inflation and interest rates. Another question that I had was, would this starting collapse of the US dollar and all of this as far as the national banking and international banking, will all this begin November of this year or November of next year? That was a question that I did not know the answer to. However, I'm always believing for the now. And so as I set that dream aside, I began to look at other things. And then as I began to put together the pieces of the puzzle to another dream, a November 4th date was derived. When I saw that date, I was automatically reminded of this November dream. And so now I see this November dream meeting with this November 4th date. And now two things are now kind of meshed into 1 week. Getting back, focusing on November 6th and November 7th, I shared in my last video that sometimes, it's a week before we hear about news, or sometimes we just miss it. And this was something that I totally missed. And this is news, major news, that came out on November 6th and November 7th about Germany. What does any of this about Germany have to do with the market crash? What does it have to do with the start of the dollar collapse, and also the going away of national banking, and then a focus being turned to international banking? So hopefully by the end of this video, I have somewhat explained the way I see this unfolding and how I see that it's possible that all of this, as far as the dollar collapsing, all of this did start the first week of November. However, the way it has been introduced is in a way where it requires a little research, as well as understanding the cause and effect of what I'm about to share about Germany. So as we are praying about this, the dates of November 6th or November 7th, what news came out? So I want to focus on the traffic light coalition. And basically what this is a three-party agreement between the Social Democratic Party, the Free Democratic Party, and those who call themselves the Greens. And they use the term traffic lights because each light represents one of the parties. And when I saw this, I immediately thought about the colors and the numbers and the things that God has been using so far when it comes down to this market crash timeline. And I'm looking at these colors and I'm kind of like, okay, God, this is very interesting. And being that this news about this traffic light coalition came out on the 6th, my attention is all there. So the question is, for these three parties, is how to solve the Germany economic crisis. This three-party was put together November 24th of 2021. And on November 6th, it was announced that the German chancellor fires finance minister, collapsing the coalition government. And so you had the SDP, red, Olaf, firing the PDF, yellow, Christian, who was the finance minister. Why was Christian fired? He was fired because he would not lift the debt brake, or what we would call the debt ceiling. He asked them to do it. Negative. I will not do it. And therefore, Christian was fired. It was said that he was blocking the progress of them solving the economic crisis in Germany. Well, with this firing, what does it do? It makes it hard to get things passed. Also, it affects the defense spending issues that they had as far as the war with Ukraine, and possibly it could lead to a EU market crash that could also affect the US markets. Because Germany is the strongest member in the EU zone, then what happens next could definitely have a huge effect on the rest of the EU as a whole. Exports is another issue, being that they're already in a crisis, and now we hear news about the Trump tariffs that are coming, possibly coming, could lead to an even greater crisis for Germany. It has been said that depending on how bad the effect of these tariffs are as it relates to these exports, it could affect the U.S. GDP in a negative way. And that negative way, again, depends on how bad Germany is affected by these tariffs. And one thing that I can note here about the GDP is a high GDP generally leads to a stronger dollar. If we go back to that November dream, that first week of November, and the dollar beginning to collapse, we have to look at this situation. A lower U.S. GDP caused by tariffs or the issues with exporting from Germany to U.S., a lower U.S. GDP would cause a weaker dollar. And so I could only wonder if this is what God was showing me in this November dream, that the first week of November, that the dollar would begin to collapse. Is this issue that's going on with Germany and what's coming as far as Trump's tariffs, does this mark the beginning of the dollar collapse? So because Germany is in a financial crisis, when it comes down to having funding for defense spending, the war in Ukraine becomes a major issue. So what happened recently? The guy who did the firing, the one who fired Christian because he would not lift the debt brake, he called Putin. He calls Putin to urge that Russia be willing to negotiate with Ukraine. He also stressed Germany's unwavering determination to support Ukraine in its fight against Russia's aggression as long as necessary. And it's noted here in this article that he had not spoken to Putin in 2 years, in more than 2 years. And so here he is now making this phone call to try to get Russia to negotiate with Ukraine and hopefully end the war. And if funding the Ukraine war is an issue for Germany, then this call would have been a call out of, would have been needful for him to stop this war so he wouldn't have to fund Ukraine. However, Zelensky came back saying that it was a risk. Him calling Putin was a risk, and it has opened up Pandora's box. And later on, Olaf comes back to defend his call to Putin, but admits it's not good news. And now moving forward, here today, November 17th, we see that Russia launches one of the fiercest missile and drone attacks at Ukraine's infrastructure. And you have to wonder, did that phone call cause things to escalate to this extent? And then also today, November 17th, an article came out, or news came out about Biden. Biden allows Ukraine to use U.S. arms to strike inside Russia. And what they're referring to here is something that we've been hearing in the news for months about Ukraine wanting to use long-range missiles to fire into Russia. And we've also heard the past couple of months that Russia has warned that it would see a move to loosen these limits on Ukraine and to allow them to use the U.S. weapons as a major escalation. So going back to the small wars and the three things that I could think of that would cause the U.S. to be involved in a small war, we can now check out the fact that Biden has decided to allow Ukraine to use long-range missiles to fire over into Russia. So with this decision by Biden, would this put us in a position that we now see ourselves marching towards war? We now would see ourselves possibly being involved in a small war. And then finally, that final result, based on this news, if this was to come out in this way, that would cause the fourth quarter market crash. Also, going back to the Eiffel Tower dream I shared in the video where I did the updates to that dream, one of the 5 questions that I asked was, is this dream depicting another market crash, but this time it's the European market crash? And because the European market crash, then this would have a major effect on our markets, causing it to crash. So we will continue to watch as well as pray. So much is going on in the news. Only God knows what this outcome of all this will be. However, all we can do is try to understand what He's shown us and understand how we're to prepare ourselves for what's coming. And to also pray about this November 27th date. Again, where does this date fall? In what category? Will this be a war date, following the pattern of everything that's going on with Israel? Would this be a crypto date? Or would this be the actual fourth quarter market crash date? So these are things that we'll continue to pray for. Thank you to everyone who has liked, shared, and subscribed to my channel. Thank you to those who have left comments and emails with encouraging words along the way. I do appreciate God for each and every one of you. Please continue to keep me in prayer. As to all of this stuff is a lot. But again, I enjoy doing it. Thank God for ordering my steps and helping me to understand these things along the way. Everything is not 100% clear, but it is coming together, and I do see what God is doing here. And so that is all that I have for this video. Until the next one, God bless.